All right, welcome to the Straight Red Card. Yeah, it is cocktail hour, but we are going to talk about why are we covering this, Brett? I mean, we don't have to cover this. This is kind of, I mean, some people would say it's even like not salacious, but exploitive. Because I mean, hasn't everybody else covered this already? Probably
tabloid-like.
Yeah, but hey, we're soccer. we're soccer fans just like you guys, so we talk about this stuff as well. So we saw it flash up on our screens all day yesterday, and then more today. So yeah, let's talk about Jozy Altidore in one corner and Taylor Twellman in the other. And I guess let's just give people context if there are just a few people out there who have no clue what's going on. So Taylor Twellman went on his show, ESPN, FC, or whatever, and they made a video where he basically called the Olympic qualifying campaign that we had pathetic and laughable. Which we can go into some of that and his sort of where he goes wrong in some of his commentary on that, as well as, I don't know if Lala said the same thing, but anyhow, some of his comments were right on, and others were like, okay, that's just a rant because he's supposed to do those things. What are we doing? You know what I mean? So that's his job, right? And that gets to the core of this as well. But so Jozy's apparently, I don't know if that sparked this. I guess that's what sparked this because it, am I right by saying that was the spark that led to Jozy's comments? Am I right on that?
That's what yes. It was another show highlighting Twellman's comments, and that's what sparked it.
Yeah, because Jozy, the first thing he says, his very first tweet, is Taylor Twellman's national team career was laughable. So he was playing on Twellman's pathetic and laughable comment. So that was like, wow, his national team career was laughable. I mean, I guess, Twellman didn't get as many chances to play because of injuries, head injuries, and which eventually made him retire. He always seemed to have a problem or an injury or be hurt whenever we were playing an important game because he was one of the lead scorers in MLS during that time period.
For a good chunk of his career, yeah.
Yeah.
He had 30 caps and 6 goals or something along those lines last time, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like he didn't want to play. He just was always, it seemed like he was always injured when an important tournament came up. And so you can get into the best ability is availability. If you want to get into that, Jozy certainly doesn't have anything over him on that because he's always injured. But
I've always ragged on Twellman mainly because of his New England Revolution connections, but I always respected his game.
Yeah.
And I quite frankly, I enjoy him as a commentator. Similar to how I enjoy Lawless as a commentator. They're kind of the whole, the shock comments, stuff that creates conversation. Because if you just sit there and you break down the game, the conversation's over with 2 minutes later. But if you say something a little shock and awe, that tends to spark a conversation. Whether it's good or bad, we'll see. But I enjoy it. I
do too, and that's their job. That's their job. I mean, if they said nothing, did nothing, or were never controversial, or never went on ESPN and said, "What are we doing?" Then you don't have that
here we are. What, like 4 years later, we're still talking about that.
Yeah.
Although I think that plays a factor, and I think it's a little bit of a PTSD with Jozy, given that he kind of got not him personally. I don't know if Twellman ever addressed him personally, but did the exact same thing to Jozy and the U.S. men's national team after failing to qualify. And I think this was just sort of festering down underneath, and he may have picked out some comments and quotes or something like that later, and then it just sent him over.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot. Listen, Jozy's not going after Twellman all of a sudden because of these comments.
No.
Jozy's going after Twellman because obviously there is some pain on his side and some existential angst as it regards to them not qualifying for the last World Cup and the comments that were made by Twellman generally about the team's performance and the U.S. Soccer's focus and Bruce Arena's performance as a coach. And, we lost the game. So he freaked out. But, hey, Lawless said some pretty nasty things. I think nastier things, actually. He was saying, oh, you tattooed boys and all that stuff and making fun of certain players on the team specifically. I mean, he was a little bit nastier, but of course, Lawless still has Altidore starting on his U.S. men's national team 11 as a center forward as our number one player. I don't know if that's changed since, we saw Daryl DK and Sargent's performance. But, okay, maybe that's why Jozy's giving him a pass. But he goes on to say Beasley should be an analyst or Mia Hamm. Okay. Twellman need to be on extra time radio with Bobby Warsaw. Didn't understand that one at all. And he a white boy with connects. I'm sure Twellman has connections. Stop giving him a platform. Who? Twitter or is he? You think he's referring to ESPN?
He's referring to ESPN. Isn't Beasley and Ham both commentate and analyze for various platforms, don't they?
I've never seen Beasley anywhere. I mean,
maybe it was a guest appearance or something like that I'm recalling, but I thought he was on something.
I don't know if Beasley. I don't know what his qualifiers, how he'd be qualified to do what Twellman does, because I don't know his background.
No. I think what Jozy's talking about really is that he doesn't think Twellman can necessarily, and this is me spitballing here, but he doesn't necessarily think Twellman should be able to judge players who've had better careers. So why not bring up a player something like DeMarcus Beasley, who's had a great career, and he should be able to commentate and understand the game better, I guess. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, that gets back to that old argument that if you haven't played the game, you shouldn't be able to analyze it.
Or coach, yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe in that.
I don't either. No.
Both of us played the game. You played it probably. Well, we both played high school ball, right? I don't think you played it. Did you play college? You didn't play college.
I played through high school, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't even bother trying out for the Indiana University team, right?
It was one of my greatest regrets.
I know. I
would have been happy playing. Not looking back on that, I would have been happy playing second string or second team practice squad. Just getting out there and playing. Oh, that would have been so much fun. Looking back on it, at the time though, I was burnt out. I was going to college, and I'm just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Hindsight's always 20/20 though.
Similar to me, although I knew I had no chance at making that team. If I went to some podunk Division II school, maybe I would have had a shot, but no. And by then, my knees were already starting to show. But anyhow, back to this. Okay, all right. So I don't know what Bonafides, Beasley, and I know Mia Hamm was a great player. She was probably my favorite women's player. I don't know if Mia Hamm, I think she's done some analyzing.
She's done some women's games and some handful of men games here and there type thing.
I think this is just taking shots at Twellman, and then he says he needs to be on extra time with Bobby Warshaw, and that's kind of a shot at Bobby Warshaw, I guess, because he's saying Bobby Warshaw's show is so low, that's where he needs to be.
I loved his comment too, because he quote tweeted and said something, me paraphrasing, but sort of like, "Love you, bro."
Yeah, it's just
it wasn't quite exactly weird. What he said, but it was something. It was nice. It was nice. Nice little comment back.
But I think Bobby Warsaw may have, when he was on MLS, been somewhat critical a time or two of the U.S. men's national team. So maybe that's why I took a shot at him. Sure. But then he says, people like Twellman telling millions that I'm this, I'm that, didn't live up to this or that. I'm a hero tailored to young black kings and want to play soccer. Kids in Haiti and the Caribbean. Or Caribbean, depending on whether you're English or American. You don't define success for me. You were half of me. No more free takes. Ooh, whoa, no more free takes. So he's going to monitor all the things Twellman says from here on out.
I wish I just simply don't have that much time on my hands. But
I don't recommend you do that, Jozy. That sounds like a lot of work, man.
Yeah. I know in years past, and you were on board with this too, but I've defended Jozy through all the hate that came out. the fact that the people would say like, oh, he dipped his shoes in cement before the game, various comments like that, and I defended him just like I defend most players who represent the United States, because obviously they've gotten to a point that I never have or never would, but they definitely
hold on now. That's not why you defended them.
No.
It wasn't because they're better than you.
No, my point. That was leading to my point that I respect his accomplishment. I respect his accomplishments, and I also recognize both the ups and the downs and his success and failures. Yeah, because he has had a lot of successes with the U.S. national team and his club game, but he has had some failures too, and he acknowledges that later too.
We had Simon Allen on the show, and I think he used to call him Jozy Altidore, and we defended Altidore, and we defended Bradley, and we defended Tim Ream back in the days. And when I say back in the days, that's probably like almost 7-8 years ago, and we were defenders of them. So we're not here to criticize Jozy. I mean, that's not what this segment's about. It's about exploring this. I think exploring the language in a deeper way, trying to get at, well, existentially, where is Jozy on this? Is this a hurt feelings thing? Where is this coming from? And what is his, why is he doing this now, sort of thing? And that's all going to be very hard to say. But, just using and looking at the words he used, I'm trying to assess, where is Jozy Altidore on this? And why is he doing this? Why does he feel he needs to do this? Because he doesn't need to do it. As much as he got booed in whatever games after the loss to Trinidad and Tobago at MLS games, so what, dude? You are still a millionaire many times over. You've accomplished things that not many people could accomplish in their lives. You've played in World Cups. You played in the Premier League. You didn't play that well, but I mean, you were a great player in Holland. You had a good career in Europe in some way. I just don't think that Jozy needs to be this defensive, I guess is what I'm getting at. I mean, I understand why he's hurt by the booing and all that, and all the people on the interwebs and the tweets and all that saying he sucks and he's the worst thing ever. I think he just needs to stop reading that crap. I know how hard that is, though. It's got to be hard. I mean, it's one of those things now, as if you are on Twitter, it's hard to miss those kind of comments. So anyhow, he says, you don't define success for me. I don't ever think Twellman claimed that he was defining success for Altidore. He never sat down and said, this is how Altidore is going to be successful. So I don't think that's a fair comment. And then you weren't half of me, kind of probably in size, and maybe in weight, muscle mass.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really kind of nasty thing to say. And then again, no more free takes. So then there was a user who rebutted by stating that Twellman was really only going at Altidore from a pure soccer standpoint. And Altidore then responded, that's fine. My problem is this. I'm not Messi. We're the best to ever do it for USA or anyone, but I'm sure as hell not a failure. I don't remember Taylor Twellman ever calling Jozy Altidore specifically a failure. Do you?
Well, no, because I didn't really monitor every word that Twellman said. So it's possible he may have said that Jozy failed to score or failed to do this. He may not necessarily said he's an absolute failure. He
did call us not qualifying for the Olympics a failure. He did say not qualifying for the World Cup was a failure. But I don't remember him ever calling out specific players and saying, you specifically are a failure. So again, I don't think that's fair to say that. And listen, Twitter's not a fair place. Okay. I'm not pretending it is, but I'm just reading these from a factual standpoint. And I just wish people would communicate with each other in a factual way on Twitter. I know that is way beyond that's not happening.
Good luck on that one.
But these guys are colleagues in many ways. They're former. I know it is a cesspool, but it's they're both U.S. men's national team, former U.S. men's national team players. They're both former pro soccer players. I mean, you'd think they would have at least the ability to dialogue with one another in private first. And then maybe if that doesn't work, then you go to this. Maybe they've tried that already. I don't know. And then he says, I thrived in a game where it's hard for kids that look like me to thrive in the U.S. We don't promote the positive side, only negative. Okay. I know you're going to have comments on this. And I've got to say, Jozy Altidore may have been getting booed at MLS games after the failure in Trinidad and Tobago. But if he were in Germany, or he were in England, or any of France, that team would have been eaten alive nationally on national news channels every day for a month or 2 or 3. So I think he's being a little sensitive here.
How long did Beckham get booed and pissed after that stomp in the World Cup?
Yeah,
I mean that's a prime example right there of how it happens.
Yep. So. Believe me, it's much nastier, much worse. Like Taylor Twellman and Alexi Lawless, they have like 20 of those people, 50 of those kind of people, pundits in England. Mm-hmm. All right, and they cover the sport very thoroughly. And if you did not beat Trinidad and Tobago, if you were on the England team, you would be toasted. Just like the German press right now is roasting Jurgen Klopp because Germany lost to North Macedonia 2-1 and now sit 3rd or 4th in their table.
They're 3rd behind North Macedonia.
Yeah, to qualify, and they got to finish in the top. Like the top team automatically qualifies for the World Cup, and I think the second place team then goes into a second place pool, and then they play each other to see who gets like the final spots or whatever. Anyhow, I mean, Jurgen Klopp is getting roasted right now in Germany. And the German national team are just lucky that game wasn't like in front of 100,000 people in the stadium in Germany, because they would have been booed right off the field. And they wouldn't, I think Jurgen Klinsmann said this, for the next 2 weeks, none of those players in the towns they live in Germany are going to be able to buy a bagel at the bagel shop, not going to be able to go to the local butcher and get meat. They better just stay home for 2 weeks because this is getting ugly. So again, I don't like saying something so general like Jozy's being overly sensitive, but you would think for a guy who played in Europe and was lambasted in Sunderland's local press when he was there, he would understand that there has to be some amount of criticism that's going to come at you if you're on the national team. Am I right?
Yeah, but it's also got to be tough. You play for the national team, you have a very successful career with them, and then, you know, in his eyes, I'm sure this is one big blunder on his resume, and all of a sudden the fans have turned on him. I'm sure that's probably how it looks in his eyes. I don't mean to be putting words in his mouth, but it's got to be tough, and it's not necessarily part of the culture that we may have here at this point. And maybe it's going to get to that point. Who knows?
Yeah, it's kind of odd that he went to Twitter, which is the most toxic place in the world, to post this. When to me, that's just it's just funny. But I would hardly consider the coverage of American U.S. soccer in this country to be anywhere near toxic. It is the opposite of it. It's the fans can be a little toxic. They're like, we suck. But most of the people on TV or MLS or what, they're always maintain some bit of hope for the future. So there's always that. Like, we need to move on. We need to move forward. We need to progress. So, again, I guess Bobby Warsaw then chimed in and said, I'm a big fan of Jozy and athletes speaking their minds. Sports and society are better for it. Okay, well, I mean, I guess what Bobby's saying is if you need to let it out, let it out.
Yeah.
And then Tightshirt chimed in today. Tightshirt Twellman said, no matter what we do on the field, it's what we do off the field that is most important as athletes. What Jozy is doing for his foundation, especially in Haiti, is changing lives. Join me in supporting the cause. Well, first of all, I got to say, come on, dude. I mean, that's weak sauce. I mean, I guess he's trying to play, good cop here, or he's trying to say, well, I'm going. You take the low road, I'm going to take the high road. I guess
it's possible he might be thinking that. Maybe he's looking at possibly just wanting to diffuse the situation. I mean, he's known Jozy for years. I'm sure they were on decent terms up until maybe 2017. Who knows? My guess would be is that he's just looking. He may be looking to diffuse it. I highly doubt that was a 40 chest troll on his part. It could be. Who knows? But I would assume most likely he's looking at this whole situation blowing up, and he's like, okay, well, let's try to defuse this. That's my take. I'm sticking to it.
If I were him, I would have said, hey, man, I'm sorry you don't like, how my career panned out or whatever, but, it's my job.
It could have gotten really ugly, too, yeah.
He could have said, this is just my job, and I'm sorry you despise me for it. I just got to keep doing my job. And that would have been, I think, a fine response, because that's what his job is. But, what happened was he thought this would diffuse it, but nah. Jozy was having nothing of it. He said, your money can't fix this. Big, strong, powerful issue, replied Altidore. Acknowledge it and be better. I don't want nor need your charity. What issue is he talking about? I totally got lost. What am I missing?
This is where everybody started speculating, because obviously the big, strong, powerful is all in quotes. And people are talking about how that's generally the terminology that that commentators use for black players around the world and in the United States, I guess. It's, and then they allude that, if it's a smart, intelligent play, it's a white person doing it, I guess. I don't know. But my big question is the big, strong, and powerful. Who's that describing? I mean, if that's describing somebody, say like Jozy or DK. That's a great description. Now, of course, they have brilliant plays that they do, and they're intelligent players.
I thought he was saying that his money couldn't fix the foundation's work that he's doing in Haiti and changing lives. I thought that's what he was saying, that you can't. Your money's not going to fix this.
No. I took that totally as a me paraphrasing what that said is basically saying I don't want your money. That's not solving the problem, and whatever the problem is, and the fact that the big, strong, powerfuls in quotes leads me to believe that's the focal point of the entire response.
So he's saying Tightshirt is. See, that's the thing I don't get, because that topic wasn't really. You look upwards through the rest of these comments, it's mostly about Jozy saying, hey, you're paid to say these negative crap, and I'm sick of it, and I'm calling you out for it. And now we get to the bottom, and we're talking specifically about a totally different issue that had nothing to do with all the issues raised above, unless you want to dig deeper into the fact that he's the DeMarcus Beasley-Mia Hamm thing, and saying he's also advocating for more, minority and women on. I don't know, Brett. This is Twitter. It's so garbled. It's almost like poetry. You have to find the metaphors and the analogies to make any sense of it.
And if I had absolutely no life and all the time in the world, I would go back and look at all the commentating that Twellman did and just verify if he ever referred to a player solely as big, strong, and powerful in those descriptors, without necessarily alluding to the fact that they made brilliant plays or did other things that are great. I think that I don't know. This is This is beyond my pay grade.
I know. I tried. Brett, I had enough time today to do some research, to go back and look at statements and comments that Twellman had made over the years. He never attacked Jozy personally, or Bradley by name personally. So I don't get it. I'm confused by this. I don't know why this blew up into such a big thing. But we had to cover it, and we had to talk about it.
My closing statement on it is, what your point is, he may not necessarily, in Jozy's take, he may not necessarily have called me out by name, but he made those statements, how pathetic and sad and bad of a performance it was, and then all of a sudden the fans are booing me and booing Bradley, and maybe he's putting 2 and 2 together and saying that he wasn't calling out the entire team; he was calling out certain players. I don't know.
Well, there's no
Quite
doubt.
frankly, I don't recall any player doing well in that last game, except for maybe Ballistic.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that was, and I think that was the only player that I can recall that had an okay game. I wouldn't even.
And Lawless still called him the tattooed Wonder Boy. I mean, shit. If I were Ballistic, Ballistic has never mentioned that comment before. But I doubt Lawless will ever get an interview with him.
Maybe Ballistic will get a crying face Lawless on his arm or something like that.
Something like that.
I wouldn't want to live my entire life with that.
No, I wouldn't either. I will not have Lawless anywhere near me. All right. Anyhow, let's move on.